What's up, y'all? This is Jonathan Lippy, Beyond the Harmony, beyondtheharmony.com. Today's topic is Chasing Crossroads. Now, we've made mentions of it on the show in the past. Crazy Bone and other Bone members have brought it up previously.
I mean, at the time, I thought that the label was really like chasing another Crossroads.
And we're just going to chronicle the path of Chasing Crossroads over the years and just open it up to a discussion on this single topic. Before The Crossroads, there was Crossroad. And there are many hardcore Bone fans that prefer the original to the remix. I personally see them as totally separate songs, but I understand the debate because the original Crossroad was removed from the additional pressing editions of Eternal once the Crossroads remix became the international success. I don't know why they didn't just include both versions of the song on the album. There was enough space at the end of the CD to have both songs. I heard that it was to not confuse the new listeners that bought the album because they heard the Crossroads on the radio. The concept of Chasing Crossroads implies a colossal built-in insult by the industry against Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. The industry saw it as, look at these rappers who aren't formally trained in music, who aren't singing in traditionally observed proper keys of notes. Where did Ruthless Records find these thugs from Cleveland and turned them into the #1 song in the world? How did they do that? Look at this. They're not even paying these guys. How did they have such a colossal success off of a non-standard formatted song? And it's like they thought they could turn the formula into a corporate cookie-cutter template that they could then continuously reproduce. It's as if they completely didn't observe the deep spiritual reason that the song resonated with so many people across so many genres of music. They didn't understand that the success was a blessing from both the souls from beyond that passed on, along with the grief of the survivors of this world had not only had for the people in the song that passed, but also for the loved ones in their lives that were lost. The song hit home for every single person on earth. You also have to keep in mind the industry wasn't saturated yet with this kind of song that plays off of a deep emotion that we all feel for loss. It's like the industry wanted to repackage that and continuously profit off of it. Like you can just disingenuously play off of people's emotions without it receiving blessings from the other side. I think all of the competition of Ruthless was like, we got to have our own version of it. We got to pull off this too. Another aspect of the envy factor was the album Eternal kind of ran its course, and having this remix somehow associated with the original album gave Eternal a second life. And what record label wouldn't love for one of their albums to receive a second life after a full run? The success of the song was paid for in advance with permanent, irreplaceable loss, including the first significant death of a legend in hip-hop, Eazy-E. Now, Scott LaRock and others had died before Eazy-E, but Eazy was the first irreplaceable death that leaves us saddened by the loss even 30 years later. Now, with all that said, let's look at the journey on how each Bone album continuously chased the Crossroads. So Eternal started it with Crossroad and The Crossroads. Days of Our Lives is an interesting song. It kind of lives in purgatory on its own and rode the coattails of the smash success of The Crossroads and had a similar feel even though it had completely different subject matter. But it was like the perfect follow-up to The Crossroads. Now, the first obvious attempt at Chasing Crossroads, and was even stated as such, was when Def Jam brought in Flesh and Bone to record World So Cruel. Even with Reverend Run featured on the song, World So Cruel was the first chase of the Crossroads that didn't meet expectations. Then we had The Art of War, and it had If I Could Teach the World, and this was clearly chasing the Crossroads, but it felt corny and had mixed messaging in it. The whole idea around it missed the point of what made the Crossroads so successful. BT&H Resurrection had changed the world, which Bone fans embraced, but there wasn't any marketing push for the song. They did shoot a big video for it, but it never received much airplay. It felt like a missed opportunity to actually cash in on Chasing Crossroads. The one that they actually had, the fans said, yeah, they didn't do anything with it. Thug World Order had 2 attempts with Get Up and Get It, and to a certain extent Home with Phil Collins. Get Up and Get It was so off-brand for Bone in that they spent a double CD, The Art of War, talking about how they are original and how they don't bite others' music. But the song title and concept was directly lifted from Outkast featuring Goody Mob on their song called Get Up, Get Out, and Get Something. And it also sounded like it was First of the Month Part 2, which the original First of the Month borrowed from Marvin Gaye. Now, as for Home, that felt under-marketed and it should have been a bigger single. Around that time, Bone Brothers' album came out and it had Hip Hop Baby, which to me had a very similar vibe to Get Up and Get It, and it kind of went nowhere. Let me just step back a little bit chronologically and point out that I'm surprised the record labels didn't try to chase Ghetto Cowboy or All Good. Both were the singles from Mo Thugs 2, and both had excellent success. The Bone fans never asked for the Crossroads 2, whereas the Bone fans have been asking for a Ghetto Cowboy 2 or a Ghetto Cowboy movie. Strength and Loyalty had I Tried that chased Crossroads, and modern day stream counts would argue that it actually has outperformed the Crossroads in some respects, at least on modern streaming platforms. I Tried was the only song that chased Crossroads and actually caught it, and successfully resurrected the Bone brand that was, for all intents and purposes, thought to be dead and gone with only 3 members in the group at the time. I Tried doesn't get the proper narrative it deserves for being a vitally important song in the Bone catalog, perhaps the second most important song they've ever recorded and released. Because if you think about it, it extended Bone's career another 17 years. If Strength and Loyalty didn't succeed the way it did, that might have been the end for Bone. And yet here they are still going 2025. The funny thing about Strength and Loyalty also had a Chasing Breakdown single with Little Love with Mariah Carey, which I think fans took more offense to than I Tried. The funny thing about Breakdown, when that came out, it wasn't Chasing Crossroad, it was Chasing the Bone Style. This time by Mariah Carey, but many that featured Bone were just trying to get a piece of that Bone action. Because at the time, everything they touched turned gold. The Unify the World's Enemy had Meet Me in the Sky, which is a nice song, but it felt a little forced. A more commercially viable song off the album that was not made into a single was Gone, which could have been as successful as All Good with the right marketing. Why would you put a song like that on the album? The Bone fans don't want to hear that, but the audience outside of Bone would like that song. When I play that to people that aren't Bone fans, they're good with it. The interesting part about Unify is 2 of the singles, Rebirth and See Me Shine, were 2 singles that in my opinion rival Thuggish Ruggish Bone and For the Love of Money or First of the Month in potentially being iconic songs, but for whatever reason, they're not received well by the fans. Now, New Waves had, in my opinion, the first actual direct sequel to The Crossroads with If Heaven Had a Cell Phone. The song is excellent. It's well mixed and mastered and performed, but it is possible that by this point, the world was so tired of chasing of The Crossroads that they just turned their shoulder and missed out on a great song that didn't receive the marketing push it deserved. Another song on New Waves that should have been a single and had the perfect feel and sound and concept for the time period was the song called Ruthless. That should have been the lead single from the album, and it wasn't even Chasing Crossroads. It crafted an entirely new sound for Bone. I felt it embodied the concept of New Waves, and if it had an accompanying video, an entirely new, mature look could have been created for Bone. Additionally, I thought it had timing on its side, because at the time, Straight Outta Compton, the movie, was still in people's minds, and I think even NWA fans would have liked a Bone Thugs and Harmony song called Ruthless, or even Ruthless Records fans would have liked hearing that during that Straight Outta Compton era period, just because of the name and for the memory of the legacy. Not having Ruthless as a single and a music video was an enormous missed opportunity for Bone. That really could have put them in that adult contemporary, we're mature, like middle-aged adults now. Why make such a great song and just leave it as an album cut that nobody outside of Bone fans is ever going to hear? Also on the album, the song Waves really captured what the new sound of Bone could be going forward. It had a little bit of what you were used to, along with a new twist to it, but they didn't explore that sound for the entire album. That would have made New Waves really feel like an excellent Bone album if it all was in that style. They also missed the boat not having a video or single for Whatever Goes Up. I would assume people would trade Fantasy and Change the Story for Whatever Goes Up and Ruthless. And while there was a music video for Bottle Service, it was the fourth single and poorly marketed. Bottle Service could have opened Bone up to an entirely new audience, and it could have provided a whole new avenue, new life, new angle, new channel for Bone. And the biggest fail for the New Waves era was not releasing the Sons of St. Clair film. It was an opportunity missed to evolve the taste of the Bone fan, to get them up to speed to understand how crazy and busy have evolving tastes in music, and their lives have matured into bigger and better things, and how they wanted the audience to grow with them to understand the new sound, the new wave of music that they created with New Waves. There are other songs that perhaps weren't chasing the crossroads, but were foreshadowing the desire for the sound to go to New Waves. There are other songs that perhaps weren't chasing the crossroads, but was Bone foreshadowing the desire for the sound to go to New Waves before New Waves happened. A lot of people think New Waves was this big shock that just happened. It's like, whoa, where did this come from? And it's like, no, wait a minute. You guys weren't paying attention. I mean, Bone dropped Everything 100 around the World War III era. They had Vegas during the World's Enemy era, Just Vibe, Gone from the World's Enemy, Survivor, Too Small from the World's Enemy. And Too Small had a real mature sound to it. It almost sounded like it was ghostwritten. It sounded like it was a project for somebody else. Like someone had penned it and wanted Bone to perform it for them. That's not me knocking Bone. It's just, if you haven't heard The World Is Too Small, go listen to it. It doesn't sound like a normal Bone song. It sounds like a corporation wrote it for some kind of commercial or some kind of documentary or a movie. I like it. By me saying that is not a diss to the song. I like how it sounds. I like how professional it sounds and how not rappy. I like that it feels almost like easy listening. Oh, and that brings me to Determination. That was another mature, more adult sounding song, more of a new wave. And actually, come to think of it, a song that made me feel all warm inside and gave me, that nice feeling that the Crossroads gave was the original version for Coming Home with TQ and Lazy Bone on it. Not the one with Marley that made the New Waves album as the first single, but the original version, Coming Home, TQ, Lazy had a verse. The way that song sounded was so perfect. I was so happy hearing that. I was like, man, Bone, if they're chasing Crossroad, they found it. And for whatever reason, that didn't make the album cut. I like that version so much better. That song, if the original Coming Home, if marketed properly, it might have been able to recapture some of the Crossroads casual listeners from the 90s that only remember Bone from the Crossroads. Throughout the years on this channel, I've always promoted the concept of having these commercially viable mainstream songs made because they appeal to a larger audience than just the Bone cult. Now, Bone cult members want Bone all for themselves and do everything they want, the East 99 style, just make songs for me. But you got to let Bone expand outside of our group if we want to see them succeed on a larger level. Now, at this stage of the game, they might be done. They might have packed it in. We might get one last album. But I think the Bone cult has hurt Bone's chances at getting these bigger, larger deals. I always said, let Bone do one supremely commercial album of all the Crossroads type songs and do it under contract where they're not getting the masters or the points or anything, just to get that worldwide fame again. Sometimes you got to do a little bit of charity work to get known again. Not that I'm trying to get the record labels paid, but I'm just saying sometimes you got to take one step back to take 5 steps forward. So now, with all that I covered, imagine an easy listening Bone compilation album that looked like this. Track 1, The Crossroads. Track 2, Days of Our Lives. Track 3, World So Cruel. Track 4, If I Could Teach the World. Track 5, Change the World. Track 6, Get Up and Get It. Track 7, Home. 8, I Tried. Lil Love. And while we're at it, we might as well throw in Breakdown for free. Then you have Meet Me in the Sky, Gone, Everything 100, Vegas, Ruthless, Bottle Service, Hip Hop Baby, Just Vibe, Waves, Coming Home, but the TQ version, The World is Too Small, Survivor, and let me know which songs you think that I missed, because Bone has a lot more than 21 easy listening songs that fit this bill. And I don't mean Bad Weed Blues. Like, Bad Weed Blues is a chilling song, but it's Bad Weed Blues. Although, maybe we add Bad Weed Blues to it. I'm not sure. It's not PG enough. Although it is PG, I don't remember. But you know what I'm saying. You see this track list here of this concept. So what are some of the other Chasing the Crossroads songs Bone's made over the years to add to this list? Drop those in the comments below. Also, had I made a video like this back during the World's Enemy era or a little bit before the New Waves era, would it have modified your opinions enough to understand the business motive to do these what would be considered sellout songs that have a mass appeal that, Bone may not be getting the full compensation for, but they get massive exposure, massive people remembering who they are, with the intention on prolonging their careers the way that I Tried did for them in 2007. It's a massive double-edged sword with pleasing the Bone Cult. The Bone Cult is why Bone Thugs and Harmony are still a group 30 years later in 2025. Without the Bone Cult, Bone would have faded away just like every other rap group that it was in the past. But the Bone Cult has kept Bone going till 2025. But the Bone Cult has prevented Bone from evolving their sound. Because let's be honest, you guys were hating on New Waves. You guys still hate on the World's Enemy. I think some people are coming around to New Waves at this stage of the game. People still hate the World's Enemy. I'll be doing a video on the World's Enemy to try to convince you otherwise. All of us got a manufactured attitude and behavior out of it, and all of us are just following the crowd on the World's Enemy. There's even Bone fans that despise Strength and Loyalty and were furious at what that album was at the time. I don't know why they're mad at that album. Like I said, that album gave us another 17 years of Bone. Love Strength and Loyalty. You guys should worship Strength and Loyalty, and specifically I Tried. And imagine being Bone. It's almost like they're wondering, like, what do these people want? We've tried Chasing the Crossroads. They get mad at that. We tried doing things that are new. They get mad at that. We tried doing thuggish, ruggish, hardcore stuff, and people get mad at that. I think they're like, we don't even know what the heck to give you guys. Now, the crowd is unanimously saying, we want the East 99 style, for crying out loud. That's all we want. And I don't know why they don't give that to you. I don't know why. I do not know why. Other than if I'm them, I'm like, dude, we don't live in Cleveland. We don't live in the St. Clair anymore. If we made an album like that, it would be inauthentic at this stage of our life. Some of you probably vehemently disagree with me in thinking that Bone should never do anything commercial or anything that would appeal to a large audience, that Bone should only make songs for the Bone Cult, and if anybody else likes it, so be it. If you think that's the way Bone should be going forward, but you simultaneously wonder why Bone isn't worldwide accepted and loved, feel free to let me know why in the comments. So on behalf of everybody at Beyond the Harmony, I am Jonathan Lippy. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.